A closed fist. A player's throat. 3 referees standing right there, and not one of them blew a whistle. By the next morning, the clip had been watched, paused, and rewound so many times that the league had no choice but to do something it almost never does: overturn its own officials a full day after the final buzzer, and suspend a 13-year veteran who had never been suspended before in her career. If you think you already know this story because you saw the headline, stick around, because the headline is the smallest part of it. It started 2 nights before anyone was talking about a punch. The Indiana Fever and the Phoenix Mercury had already played each other, a tight, physical game that Indiana won, with Caitlin Clark putting up a strong all-around performance and picking up her 5th technical foul of the season just for clapping at an official. That game ended with technicals flying, players tangled up under the basket, and tempers running hot on both sides. Everyone walked away from that one knowing the rematch 2 nights later was not going to be friendly. It wasn't. In the second quarter, a missed 3-pointer led to a scramble for the rebound. Clark ended up on the floor. Alyssa Thomas, fighting for the ball, drove a closed fist into the side of Clark's neck, then used that same arm to push herself up and step over her on the way out of the pile. No whistle, no review. The game just kept moving like nothing had happened. Clark got up, said something to an official, and play resumed. Within hours, slow-motion replays of that exact moment were everywhere. Every platform, every sports account, on repeat. Now here's where people started getting the story tangled. Clark did leave the game later that night, in the third quarter, but it wasn't because of that hit. She came down awkwardly after a jump shot and aggravated a back issue that had already bothered her for weeks. 2 separate incidents, same night, same player. And a lot of people online quietly merged them into one story because it made the outrage simpler. The real version is messier. Clark took a fist to the throat, kept playing, and only left the game later because of an unrelated injury. Phoenix won that game by 2 points. And while Indiana's locker room was still processing the loss, someone running Phoenix's social media account decided to post a mocking meme about Clark. It got deleted fast, but not fast enough. The screenshot was already everywhere. Indiana's head coach didn't hold back afterward. She'd flagged the hit to officials at halftime and gotten nothing. By the post-game podium, she was furious, calling it a cheap shot, pointing out the lopsided foul count in the fourth quarter, and asking out loud how a non-call like that could happen to, in her words, a generational talent, just 2 nights after a different game full of similar incidents. By the next afternoon, the league had seen enough. They don't override their own referees after the fact very often. It's a rare, almost embarrassing admission that the people on the floor got something badly wrong. But that's exactly what happened. The league reviewed the play, reclassified it as the most severe foul on the books, fined the Phoenix forward $1,000, and suspended her for 1 game. Indiana's front office responded calmly, simply saying player safety should come first. No victory lap, no extra shots fired, just an acknowledgement that the league had done what it had to do. But that suspension raised a much bigger question than anyone wanted to sit with. If the play was obviously bad enough to upgrade from a no call to the harshest classification possible within 24 hours, what does that say about everything else the officiating crew has missed all season? Once a league admits its referees got one thing wrong in front of millions of people, it's very hard to pretend they haven't gotten other things wrong too. Here's where the story gets genuinely complicated, and where most of the loudest voices online refuse to slow down. Former players who've actually guarded this veteran forward said publicly that they didn't believe it was intentional, that they know what she looks like when she actually means to send a message, and this wasn't that. A Hall of Famer pointed out that if the foul had simply been called live, in real time, none of this firestorm would have happened the way it did. The problem wasn't only the contact, it was that officials let it sit unaddressed long enough for the internet to turn it into something bigger. On the other side, plenty of people weren't interested in nuance. The contact was clean on video, closed fist, throat, full stop. And honestly, both sides have a point buried in there. A play can be punishable without being premeditated. A foul can deserve a suspension without making someone a villain. Those two things can both be true. Part of why this particular player isn't getting much benefit of the doubt has nothing to do with this one play, and everything to do with what came before it. She's a 6-time All-Star, a long-time fixture of the league, someone who's played through serious, permanent injuries from an era when players didn't get real recovery time. That's the sympathetic side. But there's also a documented pattern. Past incidents involving rough contact with other players that never resulted in suspensions, including one connected to an injury that ended a different Stars playoff run last year. None of those drew league discipline. This one finally did. That history is the real reason so many fans aren't willing to call this one an accident. And then there's the part of this story that got badly distorted online. A quote about racism from a fanbase, supposedly tied to this exact incident, started circulating. Except it wasn't from this week at all. It was actually from a press conference back in 2024, completely unrelated to Wednesday's game, just edited and recirculated to look like a deflection. That doesn't mean the underlying issue isn't real. There have been legitimate, documented reports of racist and abusive messages directed at players, something the league has had to publicly address before. But splicing an old quote onto a new event to manufacture outrage isn't reporting, it's manipulation. Both things can be acknowledged at once. The racism conversation in this league is real, and this particular viral claim about it was fabricated timing. Strip away every personality involved, and what's left is the actual problem. A league that just admitted, in writing, that its own officials missed an obvious, serious foul on its most marketed player in a nationally televised game, and had to clean it up from the front office less than a day later. That's not a story about one player or one star. That's an officiating crisis, and it's been building for a while. This same star has publicly disputed technical fouls already this season. Coaches have complained about inconsistent calls all year, and the league is about to expand its schedule even further next season, which only means more games, more contact, and statistically, more injuries. The truth is, this league has grown faster than its infrastructure can handle. More eyes on every game means more scrutiny on every call. Every hard foul becomes a referendum. Every clipped quote becomes a culture war. None of that was built into the system a few years ago, and now the league is trying to figure it out in real time, in public, with millions of new viewers watching how it responds. So here's where things stand. The suspension has been served. These two teams play one more time this season, and that rematch is going to carry an enormous amount of weight given everything that just happened. Whether the punishment was too harsh, too soft, or beside the point entirely depends entirely on which version of this story you were shown first, the 18-second clip or the full picture. That's really the question worth sitting with. Was this ever about one punch, or was it about a league that's still figuring out, play by play, how tough is too tough?